A little hot.
Okay. Hi, guys. Welcome to Psychic Babes. I am your host, Kirsten Standifer. I'm super excited today. My guest is Hamilton Souther. He's a serial entrepreneur, inventor, visionary, speaker, author, and shaman. He's the founder of companies and startups spanning Web3, crypto, NFTs, blockchain, lifestyle, and wellness. Hamilton was given the title of Master Shaman by Alberto Torres de Villa and Julio Llerena Pinedo. I hope I said that correctly, after completing an apprenticeship under Alberto and Julio. Hamilton is also the founder of Blue Morpho Ayahuasca and Shamanism Center in Peru. He has seen countless lives transformed through ayahuasca, the powerful South American hallucinogenic beverage that contains DMT, which many of you know I work with and facilitate healing through. Something that is very interesting and should be mentioned is Hamilton has mapped the space of consciousness within the plant that enables you to navigate medicinal plants via accessing different gateways within them that represent different states of consciousness. And those gateways define and color the nature of the experience that you have while you're in them. When you give an intention and a direction to the experience, you continue to treat the physicality, but you bring the plant spirit medicine to the experience the way that one would in the Amazon. And this is very unique in shamanism because normally the spaces that you go into are already predefined and they're filled with entities and beings and spirits. But so what he's done is he's created kind of the same medicinal space with a void space that is transcending consciousness and moving towards love. But instead of having that shape or structure, it's filled with the medicine and devoid of any of these spirits. And it's completely transformed into a realm that is not only something for him, but for all of humanity to experience in the medicine space. And so when I say that I am really excited to have him on the show, that is an understatement. I've pretty much listened to every podcast he's been on. And I really just resonate with what he says because I think he's doing some amazing things. And I will let him, we're going to get into some of his stories and some of his experiences. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. For those of my listeners who have not heard you speak before, can you just give a brief introduction of how you first got the call from ayahuasca and to go down to the Amazon?
Yeah, it was the year after I graduated from college. And really, I was looking for direction in my life. And I had a spontaneous spiritual awakening. I was looking for direction and I gave my life to spirit as the way to find that direction. And it didn't take more than 24 hours for that call to be heard and the answer to be given. And I had prophetic dreams and lucid dreams and out-of-body experiences, and then as well as trance journey experiences that all pointed to going down to Peru and finding this shamanic apprenticeship. And I hadn't had medicine experience up until that point. It was just work through pure consciousness and universal states of consciousness. But then I ended up in Peru and had my first medicine experiences, and that showed me there was a whole nother realm to have to explore and learn in. And so that's how it all started.
What was your first ayahuasca experience like? And so was that the first plant medicine that you ever worked with?
No, I had early on, I had a San Pedro experience, and it was incredible. I was taken into the mountains by a practitioner, and he showed me the ways of the mountain shamans before I ended up in the jungle. And so I had one San Pedro experience, and in that I was really shown how to go into like really deep meditation and how to connect, kind of in that Andean mountain kind of way, which is really connected to Mother Earth and really guided and really kind of grounded. And it was an amazing experience. The final part of it was this Pegasus came over a mountain and came and flew in front of me and told me to get on its back. And then it flew me on the actual perfect, like if it, it was in the air, it flew me over the entire route that took me into the Amazon. And at the end, I ended up in the Amazon with this huge vision of this setting sun and this sort of great flash of light. It was like sort of I had arrived. And then it didn't take more than 60 days for that vision to come true. And that ended up being the exact land route I had taken down through southern Peru into Bolivia, up the coast to Lima. And then I flew in to the Amazon. And then I was taken to my first ayahuasca ceremony. And oh, wow, that experience was just unbelievable. Fundamentally, it was such an intense experience that I'm still in the process of integrating it. I mean, it's now 22 years of integration, as well as, more than 1,500 other integrating ceremonies since then, of a career in this space that's, now touched the lives of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. But really what happened is I drank the ayahuasca and I had no clue. I was in my early 20s. I had heard very little about it. I knew it was something I needed to do, just simply sort of like by that inner calling, but I didn't know what was going to come next. And the first audacious thought was I hadn't been given enough. I had no idea why I would have that thought. Just no clue why I would have that thought. Like I had no frame of
Nothing's
reference,
happening.
but I had it. No, I had it. And then I was like, oh, shoot, I haven't been given enough, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next audacious thought was it went down so well and it felt like so at home in my body for the first 10 to 15 minutes. I didn't understand why people purge. You know, and then like literally a minute after I thought that, I knew exactly why people were going to purge. And the first visions that I had was first you got to kind of set the setting. I was outdoors. I was on the bank of this very tiny river, maybe like 30, 40 yards wide. And the moonlight was hitting the opposite side of the river. So I could see like from the river all the way up to the top of the canopy. So it was sort of this like giant field of Amazon around me that was representing sort of what my field of vision was going to be like. And there was just this tiny little A-frame house that had no floor or anything like that. It was just posts with this A-frame roof where some hammocks were underneath that. And I was just sitting on the ground, and the medico vegetalista shaman was there. You know, they start playing the shakapa, that sound coming in, and everything became pixelated. Everything just became instantly pixelated, and the distance between me and everything was just filled with this unbelievably dense energy, like humidity, but it was light. And then the light took on these intricate geometric patterns that were all rainbow in color, and they were iridescent and trillions of colors that you've never seen before, all at the same time. And they were through the air itself. It was like the air was being interwoven with these patterns. And then they all started to move with the actions of the shaman
dancing,
and the insects and the nature and the owls and the birds and the frogs, and the soundscape became one. And then I was just completely overwhelmed. I remember thinking, okay, if this doesn't get stronger, I'm going to be okay, right?
Then it got stronger.
And stronger and stronger and stronger for about 5 hours, right?
Oh God.
So that whole time it was like, dude, the rivets had come out, the wheels had come off. I was a mess. I was throwing up. I was defecating. I was purging left and right. I was top and bottom purging. There was nothing controlling this thing. But the visions were crystal clear. It wasn't like I was, you know, like under the influence of something that wasn't lucid. It wasn't like being drunk. It was like being so lucid and hyper aware of everything that was going on, only it was so beyond my capacity to handle it. And what had happened was I started to do this sort of life capitulation, but no one told you that, you know, when it was going to happen, this sort of like life review, not reliving, just a review, like yes or no to each thing that had happened, only they all happened at the same time. So I thought it was like, oh, you'll go through one event and then another and another. And it was like a field of like 100 strobe lights, each one flashing a different life event, all happening in order. And it was just so much at the same time. It was so overwhelming. And then there were these, you know, beings. It wasn't just me. There was vortexes and beings in it and voices in it and the voice of God in it and bushes that had transformed physically into animals. And they were talking and they were communicating with me. And 30-foot wingspan hummingbirds were in the trees. And I was just looking at them going like, please don't hurt me. Like, I love hummingbirds. Like, you guys are really nice. And you're like this big, but when you're like the size of pterodactyls, this is completely insane. It was happening all at the same time. And then at the very end, I swear, I mean, for half of it, I thought I was going to die. And those are just, you know, irrational thoughts. You're not. It's actually cleansing you. It's making you healthier. You know, I'd never had, like I said, no frame of reference for this. So you just get scared and panicked and all these things. And then finally, I just calmed down into it. And it's like 4 hours into it. And I was just lying in the dirt. I had like mud on my face. I'm clawed into the earth. I'm grounding myself into Mother Earth as much as I can. Like, and I just am like, I need help. I need help. I don't have the energy to go any further. And I still felt like this pending darkness around me. Like I couldn't get out of it. And then the shaman came over to me and blew mapacha tobacco smoke over me, over my body. And I remember it like before I was smoking mapacha, I was thinking, oh, these are the greatest things ever. And I remember when that smoke hit me, I was just like, oh, this is so acrid. This is so nasty. I couldn't believe it. But then I felt these hands collapse my stomach. And then they like literally walked up my esophagus, literally hands that weren't me, like inside my body. And it was really painful because they were collapsing my esophagus, but I felt something moving up and up and up and out. And finally, this gelatinous sort of ball about the size of a lemon came out of my mouth. I remember my jaws had to unhinge like a snake for it to get out. It was so big. It was stretching my throat physically. and it came out in this physical like lump. And it was, it held shape and form for a period of time before it sort of disintegrated down into the earth. It was neon, bright neon green and yellow, and it was glowing. And I knew that it represented literally all of my depression, all of my pain and suffering, all my trauma from my life, literally everything. It was out, and I knew it. And the moment that happened, the darkness in the experience was gone. All the fear was gone. Everything turned to light, literally everything. This vortex opened up and just drew me through it. And it was like the awakening of everything beautiful and colorful and sublime and peaceful and safe and loving and cradling of my consciousness. And it was all cheering. And inside was like everybody I'd ever known in my life, random people I had just like passed by in my life. There were literally millions of people in there. Everything in there was a spirit. There were angels in there. There were entities. There were spirits. There were guides. There were animals. It's just all through that field that, that opened up was now filled with all of these shapes, and they were all conscious, and they were all cheering, "Yay, you found your apprenticeship," And I thought to myself, there's no way, like how could you go from that to an apprenticeship? Like I was like applesauce on the ground, and the shaman was there, like, whole through the experience. And that was the first real major awakening that I had in the plant medicine, that this was going to be a path for me. And I was told at the end of it that I needed to actually learn to live there. I was going to apprentice literally right there in the jungle. I was going to build my own house there and ultimately live there. And there turned out to be 400 yards from like the greatest elder in about 5 or 6 days worth of travel from that area. And so I ended up apprenticing to that elder, Julio Llerena Pinedo, and he took me in after about a year of sort of watching me out in the forest, kind of figuring out my intentions. And that really started it all. That first ceremony was the kickoff to everything that's become my life until now.
Wow, that's a very, very powerful and profound story. And also kind of leads me to my next question. It does. People have this kind of thing with DMT and also with ayahuasca, that it's kind of like a Western medicine, like one and done, like, and we're finished and we're all healed thing. Can you talk about that? Because it's not. It's like, yes, you can do it once, but you're meant to integrate this, and you're meant to go through. So that's why you have several ceremonies. Some people don't feel called to do every ceremony that's offered, but the one and done thing, I think is more of like a Western philosophy. Would you agree?
Well, I think that there are some cultures that treat it that way as well. It is a Western philosophy. There are other cultures that aren't ayahuasca cultures that treat it like a rite of passage.
Okay.
And it's sort of like, did you do it? Do you have an ayahuasca experience? But the guys I practiced with that were medico-vegetalistas, which means doctor of plants, they described a course of healing, depending on the experience, as 3 to 5 ceremonies. So if you had an acute situation that you were trying to heal, like depression or anxiety or traumas from the past, or you had been through some major accident that then, leaves you with sort of the equivalent of PTSD down there, they say, okay, it's going to take 3 to 5 to fully work through that for a period of time. And then you're going to go integrate it. And then you're going to see if you need a follow-up treatment. And so that treatment could be, maybe if it's 3 to 5, you do 3, maybe you do 4, maybe you do all 5, depending on how you're feeling. Also depends on the intensity of the ceremonies. Like most of the time, you get presented this idea that ayahuasca is a, just one-off, overly whelming, intense experience, but it's not really like that. There are nights where you drink a large dose of ayahuasca and it's unbelievably gentle. Almost nothing happens. You go to sleep and you wake up and it's like you kind of had this lucid dream. There are other nights where you have a much smaller amount and it's emotionally as overwhelming as you could possibly imagine. And so it really depends on kind of the flow of the ceremonies that you have. I think it also depends on if you're using it to heal something specific or you're using it to learn. Because if it becomes a teacher of yours, it's going to teach you through lots of experiences. Like the experiences you have in your ceremonies 1 to 50, completely different than the experiences you have 50 to 100, when now you're implementing that learning that all the knowledge that you've gained through those experiences and these shifts in consciousness that you go through, where now you literally process information in a new way. You've created a new neural network based on these experiences. You're not identified the same way as you were before in terms of how you relate to the rest of the world. Well, you have to apply that knowledge and you have to keep working with it over time. And so, that's where you see people go from just one ceremony or 5 ceremonies or 10 to all the way to like 100, 200, 500 ceremonies, et cetera. And in our case, as practitioners, we ingest ayahuasca when we're working in support of ceremonies, and we do that all the time. So I've done over 1,500 ayahuasca ceremonies and another 3,000, plus different kinds of plant medicine ceremonies in 22 years of practice. And so you're working pretty much all the time. You're in service to the community, you're in service to people for these experiences. And so then, people say, well, why do you do them so often? Well, the answer is really you're working for others and you're providing and supporting and guiding the nature of their healing, but you're also learning at the same time. Yeah. And so it's like a continuous training. You're getting better at your craft. You're getting better at how you work with people. And I can honestly say in the last month, I've had 14 ceremonies that have been some of the most mind-blowing stretch of ceremonies in my life. And so it's one of those gifts that even after 20 years of practice, you could literally all of a sudden awaken to a time that is your best time. Yeah. And really in the last month, I've had honestly one of the best times with the medicine that I've ever had.
I think because the medicine itself is shifting and changing with us. And as we're growing, more people are awakening to this consciousness. I think that's changing, and it's changing a little bit of the medicine too.
I agree with that. I think there's a shift in the collective consciousness about this. And as more people are coming into ayahuasca and working with it from different cultures from around the world, some of the truly just like Amazonian natures of the plants actually shifting as well. And it's opening up in the collective a way for us to tap in through the consciousness arts to other vibes and energies that are actually a lot more solid. They're a lot more grounded. And it's really opening the ability to have even a deeper, more profound experience, which is hard to believe because of how deep and profound it was before. It's like, how can you even go beyond what seemed like infinity, But it's happening, and I agree with that completely.
What's one of the most profound healing experiences or just experiences that you've seen or participated in on ayahuasca?
Well, for like the last 20 years, we were really focused on the miraculous. Yeah. And so we wanted to prove miracles. We figured, there are other groups that were proving just, the day in, day out, like we can just treat depression with this, or we can support people's lives, or we can help transcend traumas. But we were really interested in the miraculous. And so I've seen and been a part of a tremendous number of miraculous transformations. But I think the one that most stands out to me is a lady who came to us that had Lyme's disease. And the Lyme's disease caused her to have, adult late onset blindness. And there is no treatment for this, right? Yeah. This is it. So she was a seeing person, normal life, et cetera. Lyme's disease comes in and it just starts eating away her sight. And there's literally nothing that Western medicine could do about it. And we took her through a series of dietas. We did a dieta with uña de gato, or cat's claw, and worked with the black jaguar and in conjunction with ayahuasca. And she received message in the session itself, in the ceremonies, that she was going to be healed. And over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, every single day, her eyesight got better until she was able to go back to the DMV and get her driver's license again and no longer be legally blind. And that was just unbelievable.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And what I love about it was that it was corroborated, by everybody, including the DMV. So, so she passed she passed the eyesight test to be able to actually drive again. And she regained the normalcy of her life. And that was fundamentally fantastic. Isn't it one of the greatest physical healings we've seen?
Isn't it funny to see like how the doctors and even some of the other people respond to it? Like, well, there must have been something wrong, because I had a client who we shrunk her tumor. She had a tumor in her throat. And we shrunk it to about half its size. And the doctor was like, well, there must have been, we must have got the wrong scans or something. It must not be right here. And she literally had it outlined 2017 and 2022. Like, what do you think? Because it was benign. So they're like, there's no way that I could shrunk by itself. And so we were just like, well, whatever. We had a good laugh about it. But yeah, and a lot of people don't want to believe these things. And I'm not sure if it's because they're scared to believe it, or if it's just because it's so outside of the frame of reference of normal things that Westerners experience. What do you think?
I think we normalize reality, and we get comfortable within that normalized reality. And it creates kind of a trance state that we're in all the time. And it's really easy to play what I call real unreal games. So everything that's unreal is out there and not true. And everything that's real is in here and safe. And if you allow anomalies, what's unfortunate is we don't have the science to give some kind of statistical analysis to these, miraculous transformations. but now I've heard of thousands of them. So I don't deny them. There's
Mhm.
thousands and thousands of these. And I've been a part of watching skin cancer disappear and tumors shrink in size and gastrointestinal illness that has, ruined people's lives just magically vanish. So, I think what happens is that just that habituation of a reality that people get into becomes safe to deny the anomaly, because if you open up to the anomaly, the paradigm that you were in before gets shattered, and then you don't even know what is real or how to deduce
Or who you are.
delusion,
Mhm.
what's crazy,
Mhm.
compared to what's real. And I think that that's actually really important, because you don't want to, from one moment to the next, open up to everything as, oh, everything now is real. There's a lot of things that aren't factual. There's a lot of things out there in the psychedelic world that's incredibly delusional. A lot of things are just made up. So I think what we need in the next 20 years, the first 20 years of this was just prove that there really is a medical benefit to these plants, prove that people are getting miraculous healing from them, prove that they can be used in a safe way that's actually beneficial to society, to families. These are not destructive when used appropriately. Like, first prove that. And we've done that as a community. So kudos to our community for coming forth and actually showing that and taking the responsibility for these plants and putting into the collective social understanding, negative drug interactions, and don't use these plants without the right diet, and really embracing that. I had my concerns in early 2000s if this was just going to go off the rails, or if the community would really embrace a more responsible practice, and they have. So incredible. The next 20 years is going to be, let's bring science and statistics to these transformations. Let's get these plants to become used in a more mainstream way. Let's actually prove this in a way that others can wrap their heads around. Let's create a box for these understandings to be able to be in. And in the psychedelic renaissance, there will be literally a grand awakening of acceptance for these miracles. And there needs to be. It's going to happen. And we as a community can usher that in over the next 20 years.
That's awesome. I recently just did an experiment under microscopy. The medicine told me that if you looked at the average person's blood, I'm 40 some odd years old, that there was going to be kind of clumping and rouleau and things like that. But with DMT, it would blow it wide open. The cells would start communicating with each other. So we did that experiment under microscopy, under dark field microscopy. And it did exactly that. Got a video of it and everything. It was so beautiful. And then you could also, after about 2 or 3 minutes, it would start going back to its previous form. But by bringing awareness and attention to your cells, it stopped it. It kept it in stasis, and it kept it in that. And you could see the cells communicating with one another. So it was really powerful. And then it also, we were able to see that it peels away at some of the deeper issues. So that, proves the theory of what we think, that, oh, you can get in there and do the deeper work once you've got past kind of the things on the surface. So that was really, really an exciting thing to be a part of.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think that's exactly what we need more of. We need brain scans before and after. We need studies like the ones you guys were just a part of. And what's going to come out of this is a new linking that our consciousness affects cells, and cells are affecting the consciousness. It's not one or the other. It's a field of matter and energy. And when you get into these experiences, you see it. It's not like it's like the Western mind is blind to something that isn't just the reflection of light and that physical sort of barrier that we represent. You get into these visionary states, and those are the states that actually the quote unquote doctors of our ancestry 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago were using as a way of diagnosing. And so they were looking at you and they were saying, you actually look more like these psychedelic visions than you do looking like the picture of, a magazine ad. It's not just the chiseled abs. It's actually the chiseled abs with these energetic centers that look like a rainbow, with this, huge sort of auric field around you. And in that, you really do see that we represent a field of energy. It's not just the material physics of the body itself. It's that plus this shedding of energy and brain activity and heart activity that is an expression of our consciousness. And as we wield consciousness through the body, there is an interaction that's taking place all the time. And as we become more aware of that, and we become able to actually harness that through these practices, that's where we're really going to be able to see the ability to affect the transformation of illness in the body, and doing it purely through not just the taking or ingesting of psychedelics, but what we do when we're in the visionary experience.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about the Amazon and the training down there. It wasn't take this just to have a trip and you're kind of like the balloon floating through the air, or you're the inner tube floating down the river and the river just takes you. It was actually a very active practice. Once we got into the visionary state, there was technique after technique about how to navigate, how to see, how to communicate, how to interact with the visions themselves, how to gain information and knowledge from them, and how to really dance with that experience. And so those are really the arts that I think are going to come forward in the next 15, 20 years and make a huge difference to how we relate to these experiences.
That's a great point. And speaking about that, you've actually mapped the field, right? And you've actually got the mathematical equation for it.
Well, I have. Yeah.
Thank
you for that.
Sorry, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that's fascinating to me, because I know I've been working on similar things, but I haven't got to the level that you're at yet. So,
well, I appreciate that. I think what you're interested in kind of persists and grows in these states. And when I started working with Julio told me that for us, there were really 3 reasons to participate in these ceremonies. And you drink ayahuasca to learn all medicine, which is all the different ways to heal your tribe, Icaro medicine, which are the vocalization and chants that are used in the ceremony to guide and direct it, and then divine knowledge. And divine knowledge was this like big 2 words that were really amorphic and really big. Like, first of all, how can you learn from divinity? Like, what is divine knowledge? And ultimately, what for me, it was going through universal states and learning to see consciousness through the universal states. So an example of a universal state is we all have heart. We all circulate blood. We all breathe. We all think. Not what we think, that's all unique, but the fact that we do it. So we're all made of cells. We're all made of molecules. We all breathe molecules. We all take in that energy. Oxygen, oxygenates the body. The field of consciousness is for all. We're of a field of consciousness. We're individual nodes of that field of consciousness. This is not just my brain. This is a localization of Earth's brain. You are a unique and miraculous localization of Earth's brain, just as everybody is. And we've taken the linguistics of that and we've made it all I am. So it's my experience, my memories, my thoughts, my reflection off of reality, my reflection off of your questions, my personal experience, how I feel about it, how I feel about my age, how I feel about, my gender, how I feel about my personal growth and development, how I feel about my job, how I feel about my finances. It kind of goes on and on and on. One of the things that happens in these ceremonies is all of that sort of self-reflection flips. And when it does, you start, it becomes a we. It becomes a great we. And it's all our ancestors are in the we, all the future generations are in the we, the natural evolution and unfolding is in the we. And so I got really into that because I wanted to find a way to tap into that collective and be able to support and help that collective on a global level. Like I wanted to, I thought we could be conscious of our evolution and we could do that together and it wouldn't be a me thing. And I didn't really care about the me Hamilton part of it. I cared about us doing it to better ourselves as a species and for the planet itself. And so I started to codify that. And I just started to get really like deeply into these universal states when I was going through ayahuasca ceremonies. Since I was doing it every week, it was, kind of a continuous practice. And little by little, I was able to create a codification for that I ultimately called Medicine World, which was a way for us to be able to represent a universal container for these experiences so that we could have them together, but anywhere in the world, so that we could first transcend like having to be in the same Maloka or ceremonial center to be able to have the experience, so that we could get together and use these, miraculous forms of technology like streaming and live streams and Zoom and be able to have people on all continents and all countries at the same time connected. And that was a universal understanding of universe, time, I, consciousness, motion, interaction, and the totality of our experience. So that we were in a universal space-time continuum, a universal state of consciousness where we chose divinity and love and light as our core and our center through our hearts. So universe, time, I, we all share universe, we all share time, we all share the I. We all are self-aware and we know the I am. So universe, time, I, consciousness, we're all sharing consciousness. Motion, we're all sharing the continuous evolution, which creates the continuous experiences of everybody at the same time. So it's not you on your timeline, the other one on the other timeline, and all this complexity. It's one timeline that we're all sharing, like one beating of the drum, one expansion and contraction of our consciousness at the same time. And we're all tapped into that together. And then from the heart, we're all deciding to be in a safe place, a loving place, a divine place, a universal place as this individual container, but collective container for the ceremony. And we did a live stream to prove it. And we had over 5,000 people from around the world in over 15 countries, all at the same time connected. And we were able to hold the first global healing ceremony in a shamanic context for everybody at the same time through that codification. And then that moved on to a creation that I call Sanctuary, which is a place that transcends all duality so that we can have a universal state of consciousness that's safe and protected and sane for all of us at the same time. And we can start to once again harness the infiniteness of our consciousness and the infiniteness of source as a unified element. So we're not separate from source in any kind of way. And, that's when I started to be able to create these formulas for universal consciousness.
I'm about to cry. Sorry, that was really beautiful.
Thank you.
What you said about non-duality, that's something that I think people misunderstand this. I always tell them to practice neutrality when we go in together. And the reason why is not to ignore somebody if they're hurting somebody else, but to not judge them for their action, because that's just perpetuating that cycle. And I think what you're talking about, and I've actually done this meditation that you had spoken about on the Aubrey Marcus podcast about connecting with a time at the same time connecting with motion, and then connecting through the heart space. And it was very powerful. The ceremony was one of the most powerful ceremonies we've had. Let's just put it that way. At one point, somebody was having trouble with the medicine, and everybody came in, and it was like this cacophony of like music and sound that came out of everyone at the same time, just for her. And it was like, and then that just whoosh, it was so perfect. So, I really, really thank you for that, because that is a huge contribution to the medicine space.
Oh, thank you very much. I don't know. There are no words. We're all called in this to share, and to be able to do that and be able to provide that for you guys and others in the space is just an honor. I've always felt like this is just such an honor to get called to be a part of this and to be really on that sort of bleeding edge of the evolution of consciousness. And I don't know, just super grateful. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah. I want to kind of talk about some of the more difficult things now. The first thing I kind of want to ask is about how do the shamanic tribes treat, and I know this is something a lot of people want to ask, but they're scared to, kids and younger people using the medicine and things like that, because I know in the Western world it's very looked down upon. But to my understanding, this is something that's used in Native culture.
Yeah, it is. First of all, the Native practices are very sophisticated.
Yeah.
And the Western practices aren't as sophisticated yet. So we first have to understand that. The second thing we need to understand is that the natives have been practicing with these medicines for over 5,000 years that we have an archaeological record for. And the archaeological record is very sparse in the Amazon because there isn't a lot of stone. And stone is what would, be preserved over time. So you can only find some, like all the wood's gone. So everything that they built in wood is gone. So you don't have the record for it. So you find some ceramics that show the ayahuasca designs on it and stuff like that show that these were being used 5,000 years ago, but I think they were used 10,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago, maybe even 20,000 years ago, or even longer. If you have that much history and that much time to experiment with your community, providing medicine and healing, that's the thing we also have to remember. These tribes did not have access to hospitals. There were no hospitals. The shaman or the médico vegetalistas are the doctors of the tribe. Someone gets sick, they go to the doctor. They have no MRI. They have no CAT scan. They have no X-ray. They have no ultrasound. What they have is the ability to go into a vision and actually see the energy of a person and be able to see physically into their bodies when the body becomes, completely translucent and open. This is what they have to diagnose with. So when you have children and they need medicine, they're given medicine. But in that sophistication, they know child dose. They know preparation for children that isn't the same as adults, has a different concentration of the plants. These are medicines that are being prescribed.
Yeah.
Right. So you think about a child going into a hospital or an ICU, and these are the equivalent situations. And I've actually been a part of these healings and seeing it happen. I mean, what do you do in an ICU? You don't say, oh, we can't give that drug to a child. They put an IV into a child and they give the child the necessary medications. There's no difference in the Amazon when they're using plant medicines for this. You know, imagine you're in the middle of nowhere, which is where I was, like just in the middle of the forest, and a canoe just rolls up onto your port, and people come out of it, and natives are standing there and they're holding babies, and the babies are about to die. They're semi-conscious. They're on their way out, and they're crying for you to save their baby and to raise the baby in health to being alive again. And you have to, in that moment, diagnose, okay, is there a plant medicine to be able to give this baby? Is there a tincture you give this baby? Or do you do it purely with energetic medicine to be able to heal this child? And so they have a very different attitude about this. It's not, they don't have a Western drug culture or a Western drug mentality to compare off of. These are their sacred plants. These are their sacred substances. And then they get together and they use them in these very sophisticated ways. For instance, there is a tribe in the Colombian, Ecuadorian part of the Amazon where the whole tribe drinks an ayahuasca that doesn't have the DMT in it. And they make this kind of ayahuasca tea, and the whole tribe drinks it. The children of all ages drink it. The adults drink it. The elders drink it. They all get together and they have a day of atonement and gratitude and purging. And it is a tribal, it's for the entire tribe. And what they do that day is they let go of everything that's bothering them so that they can bring tribal unity. So all the little squabbles, all the little difficulties that they had, any fights that they had, all of that comes out. And they atone that day for absolutely everything that had been going on in their lives. The kids are part of it. The adults are part of it. The elders are part of it. Then there are, ayahuasca ceremonies where the kids have a disease called susto, and that's like a PTSD. And so they come in and they give the children an equivalent dose necessary for their body weight. So it's like half a teaspoon or a teaspoon for what they need. And the kids go into an experience that looks like a lucid dream. They don't take them into a psychedelic hallucinatory trip. They know how to like actually guide the visionary experience itself, and so that it's not traumatic for kids. So the kids go into this state where they are, sort of, they're awake but lucid dreaming. And when they do that, they're guided to these beings that are called the doctors. And the doctors are like these elders. They look very much like Judeo-Christian mythology, and the doctors perform healing on them. And they receive that healing, and then their bodies heal, and or if they have trauma, their trauma's healed.
Probably causes a lot less trauma than putting a kid in the hospital.
No, I mean,
there's no
not
trauma.
like that. The mother's there. First, I have to understand the parents are there. The parents are there watching over the children. Typically, they're holding them, or they're lying down next to them, holding their hands. This is an intimate gathering of healing, and this is a petition from the nature of our bodies and the nature of Earth to heal this person. And you go into this altered state of consciousness so that you're capable of receiving. So you're not cut off. You're capable of receiving this universal energy from the forest. Then there's this discipline of shamanism, which is wild, which comes from the trees, and it doesn't get talked about very much, but it's all invisible until you drink ayahuasca, and then you can see it all in the visions themselves. But they've learned how to transport or transition the energy and the healing properties of a tree into a human body. And so they'll have the child, and it's just through the tea. It's through tea from the barks of the tree itself. And they'll make a tea. It's not psychoactive. It's less than caffeine. This is less than like a black tea in terms of a stimulant. But they will transfer these healing properties into the child, and the child will have those properties inside their body, and the body will heal itself over 3 to 5 days. And during that time, the family's with them. And so, those are the ways that gets treated. They don't have the stigma and the dogma that we have about it. And these are sacred medicines, and they're not used as drugs.
Yeah. I hope we get there soon. And speaking of, I have a 6-year-old, and she talks to trees frequently. It was so funny when a friend of mine went to go pick a flower. She was like, whoa, you ask before you pick the flower.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it just really kind of blew me away, because she did that when she was 4. So yeah, I hope we really get there one day, to making these things more available to our and communities. We need to. It takes a village. It really does, and we've gotten away from that. Yeah. I know you had some dark experiences in the Amazon. Can you speak about those a little bit? And what do you think the dark sides of plant medicines are? I mean, they have their own risks inherently.
Sure. Yeah, I had a number of experiences that are really dark. You know, I think when you understand the power of these medicines, you understand that they can be used for a variety of different intentions. And what I ultimately learned in the Amazon was that the Amazon itself, in the tribal societies or in the small villages, they don't have mental institutions. And so some of the mentally ill people also get involved in plant medicines, and they've created lineages or schools of teachings that are about harnessing the plants for power or darkness. And that's really just like manipulation. It's manipulative arts that are designed to either possess or to extort or to create fear. And it's really like the opposite of what we think of as the medicinal reasons for interacting with this. I think when we look at our society, we can see those same elements at play. And so I don't think it's such a shock to think, like we can see it in our own society. And so I think it's like a direct reflection between the manipulations in a society and people that are looking to differentiate themselves and harness different kinds of power for really purely egoic means. So if you think about it, if you go into the plant medicine, go into ayahuasca, you go into DMT, you go into psilocybin, and you go in there and you tell it that you're only there really about yourself, and it's like a pure ego trip, and you want to be super powerful, and you want to be the most important person, and all these things, those kinds of energies that would support that intention will come to you. Now, if you go in there with the intention of, I want to heal, I want to transcend, I want to grow, I want to open up to the divine and source, then those kinds of energies come to you. And so it really comes down to your intentions. And I think really the real dangers are just that you end up with in the presence of people that don't have the same intention as you, and that they're using this for the source of manipulation or, mind control or something like that. And you just really don't want to participate in any of that. There are revenge cultures, and they use these kinds of arts for the purpose of revenge as well. You don't want to be a part of that. You just want to stay away from any of that stuff. So if you ever hear anything about that, it's just sort of like anything else, like in our society where you're like, well, there are some places I just don't go, and there are some places that are dangerous to go at night. I don't go there. Well, there are some people that I don't want to interact with in this space. There are some cultures and groups I don't want to interact with. I'm not going to dabble in that.
Kind of like you wouldn't walk around New York City at night by yourself without a guide. Like, it's just not
precisely.
A good
idea. It's exactly the same. It's literally the same. But since it gets wrapped up in the psychedelic world, people want to create this, sort of hype cycle about it and kind of get freaked out. And I don't think it's necessary at all. I think you just have to be rational about this. I didn't know about it. And so the first people I ended up meeting actually were, not the nicest people, and I didn't know the difference. But now there's so much out there about this. Find a good guide, find out about them online, talk to as many people who can, vouch for them as possible. If there's any question about their validity or viability, just don't go to them, find somebody else, et cetera. If you're going to do these experiences on your own, learn about set and setting, learn about how to stay safe before you do it, learn about being protected and knowing how to hold an energetic space. Start with a smaller dose, get comfortable with the medicine practices that you're working with, et cetera. Like, there are ways to do this in a safe way. Educate yourself on them.
What should one do if they get in a situation where they realize they're already there and they're in the situation?
First of all, go straight into your heart. It's the mind that's going to freak out and become this big fractal of problems. Go straight into your heart. If you're in a difficult place, and then go into your heart, and then from your heart, start invoking every single massive, biggest, most powerful, helpful thing you can imagine. Call on anything, even if it's a character from a movie. I don't care. Just start calling. And when you call, you just call on them like, I don't know, God help me. Archangels help me. Spiral galaxies help me. Buddha help me. If you know deities from Hindu concepts like Shiva, Ganesha, Tron help me, Zeus help me. Anything, just keep calling help. Call pine trees, call palm trees, call dinosaurs, call anything, like anything you can possibly imagine. Call all the big animals, call lions and tigers and eagles and condors, and call all of them to help you. Just keep calling on help to you. and centering in your heart. But the most important thing is to call on source love. So just keep calling on source love and going deeper into source love, more source love, more heart, more light, more source love, more heart, more light. And do that for the next, like, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 hours, depending on your experience.
And then
you'll be
you
fine.
kind of create a shield around yourself, essentially.
Correct.
So that can't be penetrated, right?
That's correct. Yeah. That heart love is going to grow beyond your body, and these negative intentions or energies from others aren't going to be able to penetrate that. And so, that's like the safety mechanism if you're in a situation where all of a sudden, negative happens. But it's honestly better to know where you're going before having these experiences, so you don't end up in that kind of a situation.
All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about dietas, specifically, how important are they, and what ones do you recommend for people to do before they work with medicine? I've had some very powerful experiences with some of the master plants. So
yeah, so dietas are a kind of purification where you learn with other plants. Most of them aren't very psychoactive. Like I say, it's sort of this transfer of the energies and knowledge of the plant to you. You go through a period of purification and a very reduced amount of calories and a bunch of like restrictions, dietary restrictions during that time. So typically in the Amazon, you just eat like a little bit of fish and plantains during the dieta. It's just supposed to be enough calories to kind of keep you going. You're really supposed to be in a state of meditation most of the time. You kind of just lounge in a hammock or in your mosquito net, kind of in bed pretty much the whole time, is the traditional way of doing it. There's anywhere from 30 to 40 different kinds of master plants that you can work with. They're supportive of the experience. They're great for healing physical illnesses, and they're also great for teaching you if you're going to be in the ayahuasca and DMT spaces more. They provide all different kinds of strengthening for the body. They provide different kinds of protections and medicines and healings. They also provide a kind of structure and strength to the body, like the trunks of these giant trees kind of live within you. And so they really help you be strong and to sit up through the ayahuasca ceremonies and be very present, be very aware in them. And I think that they're probably, really important and or necessary for people if they're going to go to ayahuasca and want to learn from it. So if you're just going to go and get a healing from somebody, or it's something that you're going to do maybe once a year, that's not as important. But if this is something that you're going to really dedicate an aspect of your life to, you feel called to it as part of your practice, I think then they're very important. And I would recommend doing one dieta a year, just as kind of a reset and a way to keep learning. And in terms of the core plants associated with them, I would start with some plants that you can get legally, in the Western world, so that you can keep working with it. So I would start with cat's claw. Cat's claw is a great dieta plant, because then you can work with cat's claw and you can have cat's claw tea in the morning, and you can kind of keep that relationship going, even if you aren't in the Amazon. But then there's also, there's sort of like a core 20 to 25 trees that are the ones that you hear about everyone using in dieta, and you can use those. Those are like Capirona, White Caspi, Remo Caspi, Lopuna, Pincha Caspi, Chuyachaki Caspi, Shiwawaku. Those are a good starting point. Those are all local names for the trees, and you go down to the Amazon and do a dieta and get to know the trees. There are different cultures. Some of them have you dieta one tree for a long period of time and you learn everything about it, and then you move on. There are others where you can dieta 3 or 4 trees at a time, and for a shorter period of time. At our center, we would do dieta for 1 week at a time, and we would have people dieta anywhere from 4 to 8 trees.
And this was because of your experience being able to support the energy of more than one plant at a time, correct?
Yeah, I mean, when I got to the Amazon, I was talking to the guys. I had this idea about how long I thought I would dedicate my life to this. I didn't know. And they were kind of like talking about how long it was going to take. And it seemed like a long time. They're like, well, you got to diet these trees. I'm like, well, how many trees are there? They said, oh, there's more than 30. They're like, well, you need to dieta, each tree for at least 40 days. And you have to dieta them 3 or 4 times. And I'm going like, well, that's 120 dietas. And I'm thinking, there's no way there's going to be enough time for this. And so I wanted to see if we could accelerate that growth and if it would be possible to dieta more trees at the same time. And they had a culture where some people had dieted like 3, 4, 5 trees, but I asked them if we could push the envelope and actually experiment on me. And so we started to dieta 6, then 10, then 12, then 14, then 18, then 20, then 25 at a time. And usually during that period of time, you also wouldn't drink ayahuasca. You would just do the dieta. They said it was dangerous because you didn't have very much, physical energy. But I thought I was just like becoming the plants. I had this idea like I am nature, so I can do it. So it was like kind of like that. And, and so I started drinking ayahuasca, out of a 15-day diet, 9 nights, then every night. Then I was doing, 15 ceremonies in a row with the 20 plus plant dieta and really pushing those boundaries. I wouldn't recommend that for people who are beyond train, who aren't really in hardcore training. And even if you were, I think it is starting to push the envelope to where it could become questionable in terms of safety. But I was at that time, really accelerating that growth. And because of that, I was actually able to be given the titles of Master Shaman much sooner than, or much quicker in an apprenticeship. We really did accelerate that process by about 3 or 4 years.
That's fantastic. I have sort of an odd question, but have you worked with any poisonous plants? And I know not particularly to imbue them, and I know it's dangerous and I'm not recommending anybody do this, but there are some wrathful plant spirits, but there also are healing qualities to some of them, correct?
Yeah, yes. The answer to that is yes. When we go through training, you get taught safer plants and a lot more dangerous ones. And so, yeah, I have worked with plants that could, potentially be lethal. And when you do, it's very, very strict.
Yeah.
How you work with them. And so the dose is managed by the master practitioner or master shaman you're with. It's under their guidance and direction. It's very toxic and taxing on your system. I don't think it's an appropriate practice for Westerners. But yes, it is part of the training that we go through. And it's a way to train your body if you have to deal with someone who's been poisoned by those plants, to know how to be able to have the energies in you to basically be like an energetic antidote to them. So, or if somebody accidentally ODs on those plants, how to be able to support and help them. There's also training with poisonous snakes that way as well. So you learn how to energetically deal with the poisons and poisonous spiders. All of those trainings are incredibly intense, and I don't recommend them, but they were part of my apprenticeship.
Yeah, this is always I haven't imbued any of them. I haven't ingested any of them, but I've meditated with the spirit of belladonna, and it was actually such a beautiful experience of the divine feminine that was very powerful. Just a vision that I got, and I just held the vision of the plant in my mind. And so I was curious what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally there are a lot of plants that we call dreaming plants, and you put them under your pillow. You don't put them on your skin. You don't ingest them. You actually learn how to connect with the plant spirit or the plant energies. You learn how to channel them to be able to communicate with them directly. You do that with ayahuasca. You do that with safer plants. You learn how you open your consciousness and you open your psyche to being able to have that connection. That's part of the training experiences that you go through. And then when it's like that, then you start to connect with these other plants. You either bring them into ceremony, but you don't physically ingest them, or you'll dream them. Like I say, you'll put them under your pillow, etc.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of talk about the meditation that you do. Would you mind kind of either maybe singing one of your Icaros that is that's constructed around this kind of universal global consciousness thing, or would you mind walking us through that meditation, because it's so beautiful?
Sure. We can do both. How about I walk us through the beginning part of
That'd be awesome.
meditation?
Yeah.
And then we can go from that into an Icaro.
Okay.
Okay. So we're tapping into universal states that we all share, right? And so we want to understand in our mind that they apply to us and they apply to everybody that's connecting in this way at the same time. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is just really feel the body. And through the breath, I want us to understand that our breath is part of this. It's part of each state that we're calling on. I want us to connect with the universe, the great mystery, the great source. It's in, through, and all around us. Our body is made of universe. Our mind thinks universe. The earth is made of universe. We share universe together. The universe expresses itself through time. This is our time. It's all time. The universe will never be the same again. It'll only be this way, this time, this moment. I'll never take this breath again. This breath is a divine miracle of time. And in the center of our individual and unique consciousness, we experience I, this origin point of awareness. So we have universe, time, I. Center in your I from the heart, the core of our being, goes from the crown all the way through our body and all the way back up through the crown. Universe, time, I. In the union of universe, time, and I, we experience consciousness. Consciousness is a phenomena. It's a field of understanding and awakeness. Transcends the physical body. It's united through the universe, time, and I. We share it together. Consciousness. Universe, time, I, consciousness. And it's always evolving. It's always changing. It's always moving. We're in harmony and balance and flow state with its movement. Our consciousness is always moving. Everything is always changing. We want to embrace that change. Universe, time, I, consciousness, movement. And through that movement, we have interaction. It's a field of interaction. The energy produces sound. The energy produces waves. And through these sounds and through these waves, we're interconnected. We're not separated by the air. We're not separated by the energy. We're connected by the energy. It's a molecular and atomic bridge between everything and us. And we are all interconnected in it together in this very moment. This unique expression of the universe. Universe, time, I, consciousness, motion, interaction. The interaction is total. It's the totality. It's the infinity. Universe, time, I, consciousness, motion, interaction, infinity. We can harness that to make a choice. The choice is our heart, and the choice is love. The choice is consciousness. We choose medicine. We choose source. We choose the divine. We choose safety and peace. We make that choice. We make that decision together. And it's in this space that we can explore consciousness together. We can be of one consciousness together. We can connect and unite in the universal miracle that we represent and that we are. We choose medicine and love. I would like you to set the intention with me to awaken your innate and divine talents, your talents that make you, you, and nobody else. If we awaken all of our talents together and we add them all together, we will be able to evolve everything in a positive way. Let's stay with universe, time, I, consciousness, motion, interaction, totality, infinity, centered in our hearts, in our decision for divinity, source, medicine, and love. And this Ikaro is about that.
Trongo mandan kunani cielo sin medicina. Kurangin joshung oini rembel me a medicina. Han invenidun del mundo. Han invenidun del mundo. Han na 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 Trongo manda kunani cielos indo ayawa. Ando manda drongo zindoini Shungoi ni bria bria. Bria bria rebelbe. Kunaya di di di. Take a big deep breath. We'll never breathe this breath again. It's a miracle that flows through us in every moment. A moment of our universe and time and I, consciousness, motion, our interaction, our grand totality from the heart, intending medicine through every moment and every experience that we have. Thank you.
Wow, that was beautiful. We are the medicine,
Yes, we are.
and we need to work on healing ourselves with our own medicine so we don't have to heal anymore, so we don't have to fix all of these problems that we've created. So we become the medicine.
Yes, I agree. That's the idea of our growth in consciousness, is that we can become conscious of what we're actually doing and how we're doing it. And so we can move beyond the trauma cycles and actually start to grow collectively without having to break us down to build ourselves back up, but actually learn to be able to be really good and wonderful to each other in every possible way, and recognize that we are this miracle, that we get to share life together.
That echo was so beautiful. It just really touched my heart. I kept seeing every, since the beginning of time, every time the earth has held us so beautifully, and just the evolution of that and how that keeps happening, and then all of the different stages we've gone through, but they were all happening kind of at the same time for me. And
Oh, it's beautiful.
yeah, it was just, it was very powerful. So thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you so much for being on the show. I have one more question, and I ask all my people that I have on the show. If you have one sentence for humanity, what would it be?
That's a great question. Embrace our inner divinity so that we can grow together and evolve together.
Beautiful. Thank you, Hamilton. It was amazing having you on. So blessed to know you and to have experienced this with you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been an unbelievable pleasure.
All right. Thanks.